Welcome to lesson 4.12, write equations of a line given 2 points. So remember, yesterday what we did is we wrote the equation of a line when we were given the slope and a point. But now they're not going to give us the slope, they're just going to give us 2 points to work off of. Okay, so it's going to be similar, but a tad different. So our notes for today, again, is that I can write the equation of a line given the coordinates of 2 points on the line, which is pretty cool because now instead of giving you that rise over run that we have in our graphs, it's just giving you any 2 points and we can create the equation of a line. Okay, so we're going to look at number 1. It says, given the table, we can find the equation of a line. We've all done this before, right? So let's do a little recap. Remember, for the equation of a line, it's y equals mx plus b. So the 2 things that we need is our m, which is our slope, or rate of change, and our b, which is our y-intercept, or our initial value. Now remember with b, x equals 0 on our y-intercept, right? It's where it crosses the y-axis. So to find our slope, remember in a table, our m, we have to do the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to write y over x here. So from y, it's -1 to 3. Well, I went up 4, so it's going to be a positive 4 over. Now here, from 2 to 0, we went down 2, so the change in x is a -2. Well, 4 divided by -2, that's just -2, right? So we know that our slope is -2. Now b, our y-intercept, is when x is 0. So when x is 0, remember, it's the corresponding y value. So that means that our y-intercept here is 3. So b is 3. So knowing that m is -2 and b is 3, we can write our equation y equals mx plus b, where m is -2 plus our b, which is 3. So the equation of our line is y equals -2x plus 3. Okay, so looking at the second one, right, the first one was kind of a recap. We've already looked at finding the equation of a line given a table. But what if the problem was written like this? What if instead of writing it as a table, it asked us to find the line of point, the line that passes through the points 0, -2, and 2, 8. So if we want to find the equation of this line, it's kind of asking the same thing as it is up here, right? Because our 2 points that we were given up here were the points 2, -1, and 0, 3. Right? These 2 points are right here in this table. So when we're given 2 points written out like this, what we could do is go back to something we know and write the table for it. So here I'm going to draw my x and my y table. So if I look here at this point, it's the ordered pair x, y, right? So it's the ordered pair 0, -2. So that means when x is 0, y is -2. My second point is 2, 8. So that means that when x is 2, y is 8. So when x is 2, y is 8. So when I'm drawing this in my table, I'm making sure that the x value that I have matches the y value of my point for each one. Well, now that I have a table, it's just like the one above, right? I still have to find my slope and my y-intercept, but I can do so right from here. So let's write out our equation, y equals mx plus b. Right? M is our slope, so we're going to write m is our slope. Remember, that's the change in y over the change in x. So how much is y changing as it goes from -2 to 8? Well, it's going up 10. So it'd be 10 over 0 to 2. My x's are changing by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, which means that my slope for my equation here is 5. Now, all I'm left now with is my y-intercept, my b. Now remember, b has an x value of 0, so my y value that matches it is my y-intercept, right? Because it's where it crosses the y-axis. So b, when x is 0, y is -2, so b is -2. So given that the slope is 5 and the y-intercept is -2, I can write the equation y equals 5x minus 2. And that's our final equation there. So just like the first one, we used the same method, only we took our 2 points that were written out for us as ordered pairs and wrote them in a table. Okay, go ahead and flip the page for me. Let's take a look at the next one. Now, what if we're given ordered pairs, but it doesn't tell us when x is 0? right? Going back to our first two examples, we saw that there was the 0.03, the 0.02, and that instantly told us what the y-intercept was. But what if we have a graph like this where it doesn't give it to us? Well, the first thing it says is to find the equation of the line. So we know we have to find the two big parts, our slope and our y-intercept. So we have y equals mx plus b. Now, to find our slope, remember, our m, we have to do our change in y over our change in x. That's nothing new, right? So we do our change in y over our change in x. Well, y is going up 3 each time, so our change in y is 3. Our x is going down 3 each time, right? From 1 to -2, that's down 3. So my slope is -3, sorry, rewind as well. 3 divided by -3, which is just -1. So we know that our slope is -1. But now with our y-intercept, remember back to when we did tables, what we used to do is follow this pattern backwards to get us to when x is 0. But notice that 0 is 1 less than 1, right? But here we're going down by 3 each time. So if our pattern was to continue and we were to continue this pattern on the x values upward, every x value has to go down by 3. So that means this value would give us 4, right? It would go, if this is 4, it would go down by 3 to get me 1, down by 3 to get me -2. So I can't really find my 0 in there. So what do I do? Well, notice that I do have this pair x, y, right? When x is 1, y is 2, and I am given my slope. So if we think back to a couple of days ago, when we found the equation of a line given the slope and the point on the line, we were able to find the y-intercept, which is what we're going to have to use. So what we're going to have to do is find the slope, which we did, and then use a point to plug into y equals mx plus b. So notice our m, our slope is -1. So over here, I'm going to write on the side, m equals -1, right? Now, our x value, you can pick. It's up to you whether you want to use the 0.12 or the .-25. Personally, Ms. Wall does not like negatives, so I'm going to stick with the 0.12. So knowing that, I'm going to say my x value is 1, my y value is 2. You have to pick the point that matches the x with the y, okay? So now that I have these three things, I can write my equation y equals mx plus b, and I can replace my y with my 2 equals my -1 times 1 plus my b. 2 equals -1 times 1 is -1 plus b. Drop my line, right, because I'm solving for b. I want to figure out what my y-intercept is. Add 1 to both sides. I get that b equals 3. So what that means in our table is that our line is going to cross our y-axis at y equals 3. So knowing that b is 3 and my slope is -1, I can rewrite the equation y equals mx plus b as y equals my slope was -1x plus my b, which was 3. So y equals -1x plus 3. Okay? So now what I would like you to do is work on 4 for me. Go ahead and find the slope given the table. Pick one point from the table to do exactly what Ms. Wall did above. Please put your answer for your equation in Edpuzzle. Get it checked. If it's not correct, make sure to watch the video after to see where your mistake was. All right, welcome back. So here we have 5 to 9. For my slope, my m is my change in y over my change in x. So from 5 to 9, we went up 4. From -1 to 1, we went up 2. So that means our slope is 4 over 2, which is 2. So I have m equals 2. For my equation, y equals mx plus b. So I know my m, but I still need my b. Now, I can't really use the pattern here because I have a -1 and 1, so I know 0 is going to be somewhere in between here. So instead, what I have to do is find a point to use to plug into this equation with my m being 2. So I'm going to pick the easiest point that I think is true, which is this one right here, 1, 9. So that means x is 1, y is 9. So I'm going to take these three values and plug them into the equation to find b. So y is 9 equals my 2 times 1 plus my b. So 9 equals 2 plus b. So what number plus 2 equals 9? Well, that's 7. So b equals 7. So in my equation, I have y equals 2x plus 7. Okay? All right, let's take a look at number 5 together. So it says, write an equation that represents the line that passes through the points -5, 0, and -3, 4. So this one looks a lot like the second problem on the front page, right? It doesn't give us a table, but it does give us our 2 points, which means that we can draw our own table. So here's my point, x, y. So here, when x is -5, y is 0. So I'm going to put that in my table. X is -5, y is 0. Here, I have that x is -3 and y is 4. So I have a -3 for my x and 4 for my y. Now from this table, I can easily find my slope, right? So y equals mx plus b is the equation that I need to get. To find my slope, m, we're going to do y over x. So our y from 0 to 4 goes up 4. So it's going to be 4 over. My change in x, I went from -5 to -3. Well, that means it's getting larger by 2. So our slope is 4 over 2, which is 2. Okay, so I'm going to write that over here. I have that m equals 2. I just found that out by looking at my change in y over my change in x from the graph. Now my x value that I pick, I want to pick one of these. Well, they both have a negative in it, but I think I'm going to pick this point, -5, 0 to use because it has a y value of 0. So x is -5, y is 0. I don't know what b is. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'm going to go from there. So in my equation, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to replace it with y is 0 equals m is 2, x is -5 plus b. So I have 0 equals -10 plus b. Well, I have to add 10 to both sides, and I'm left with b equaling 10. So now that I have that my slope is 2, which I figured out from looking at the table, plugging in a point, I got my y-intercept was 10. Now I can write the equation y equals 2x plus 10. Y equals my slope times x plus my y-intercept. There we go. Okay. All right, now I would like you to flip the page. Now looking at 6, this is very similar to 5. Same thing with 7 and 8. What I would like you to do for me, please, is solve 6. So find the equation that passes through the points 3, -3, and -3, -3. All right, please get it checked before you move on to make sure that you're good to go. Now, after you're done with 6, if you get 6 right, you can jump right to question 7 and answer it on Edpuzzle. And if you get number 7 right and checked by a teacher, you can move on to number 8. Okay, so ultimately you're going to be doing 6, 7, and 8, but you are going to have to enter your answers into Edpuzzle and get it checked by a teacher to make sure that you can skip the explanation if you would like to. Okay, all right, have fun. All right, so let's make sure that we did a great job with 6. So with 6, I'm going to first create my table, x, y. I have 3, -3 is my first point, and -3, -3 is my second point. Okay. So looking at, I have to find two things. I have to find my slope and my y-intercept. So my slope is first my change in y. So from -3 to -3, I'm not going anywhere, right? So my y over x is 0 over 3 to -3, I'm going down 6. So it's 0 over -6. Almost well, any number that's divided by 0 is always, always, always 0. So that means that our slope here is 0. I'm going to write over to the side that m equals 0. Now I need to find my b. I don't know what b equals. but I do know a point that lies on the line. So I have 3, -3 that I'm going to pick to use. So x equals 3 and y equals -3 in that point. Okay, so now I'm going to take my equation y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to plug in all these values. So y is -3 equals 0 times 3 plus b. Well, this gives me that b equals -3 because 0 times 3 is 0. So given that b equals -3 and m equals 0, I can write my equation y equals 0x minus 3, or that's the same thing as y equals -3. Okay. All right, let's take a look at number 7. So it says, what is the equation for a line that passes through the coordinate points -1, 4, and 5, -2? So here's my x and y values. Here I have an x value of -1, y value of 4, x value of 5, y value of -2. So first things first, I have to find my slope for my equation y equals mx plus b. So m equals, I'm going 4 to -2, that's down 6. Here I'm going -1 to 5, that is up 6. So my slope, which is my y over x, is -6 over 6. Well, Miss Wall, to simplify that, that's just -1, right? So our m is -1 that we just found from the table. Now we don't know what our b is. That's what we're trying to figure out because we need those two pieces for our equation. But we do know an x and y value that's on the line. So I'm going to pick the point -1, 4. So x is -1 and y is 4. Given this information, we can go ahead and figure out what our y-intercept is. So when we have y equals mx plus b, we're going to plug in 4 for y. So we have 4 equals m is -1 times x, which is -1, plus b. So I have 4 equals, well, -1 times -1 is a positive 1 plus b. Drop my line, I can subtract 1 from both sides. I get that 3 equals b. So knowing that my slope is -1 and my y-intercept is 3, I can rewrite the equation y equals -1x plus 3. All right, last but not least, let's take a look at 8. Now notice they already put it in a table form for you. That's fantastic. So we know that when we write an equation of a line, our equation is y equals mx plus b, so we need our slope first. So when I go from 0 to -1, I'm going down 1. From -4 to -2, I'm going up 2. So my slope, my y over x, is -1 over 2. So that means my slope is -1/2. I still can't quite figure out where 0 is. I know it's going to be somewhere in here. So instead, what I'm going to do is use a point. And all of these points have at least one negative, but I'm going to pick this point right here, -4, 0, to make sure that I don't get tripped up with all the negatives because I have a 0 in there. So my m is -1/2. My x value that I'm picking is -4, and the y value that matches it is 0. And I want to figure out what b is. So my equation, y equals mx plus b, I'm going to have to substitute in. So y is 0 equals -1/2 times my x, which is -4, plus b. So here I have 0 equals, well, a negative times the negative is a positive. Half of 4 is 2, so it's going to be 2 plus b. Drop my line, subtract 2 from both sides. I get -2 equals b. So now that my y-intercept is -2, I can take my slope and my y-intercept and write the equation y equals -1/2x minus 2. Okay, I hope you had fun learning how to write the equation of a line given 2 points. Bye.